Hey everyone, it's Kaitlin. Welcome back to another journaling video. So as I promised in my previous video, we are now doing the video of the mid-year season that I know I always look forward to, which is the techo kaigi, the mid-year techo kaigi. We now have two, it seems, in the YouTube sphere. The beginning of the year techo kaigi, which I think was the originator, and now I've started to see these kind of mid-year techo kaigis where people have a planner conversation, which I believe is the direct translation of the word, and kind of reassess their system in the middle of the year, which is what I am going to be doing today. In my previous video, I talked a little bit about the journals that I used in the first part of the year. I flipped through a bunch of them and talked about how I was feeling going into this mid-year and what I was feeling I needed for the end of the year. And today I'm going to be actually taking you through the journal system that I have constructed for myself. And as you can probably see, I'm probably going to put this in the thumbnail. Everything has changed, not to be dramatic, but kind of, because I think it's been, let's see, since 2018 that I've actually used a proper planner and not used a notebook. So kind of a big change, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about why I've changed my system in this way and also talk about how I've set things up. But yeah, let's just get right into it. So for my system for the end of the year, well, you know what, let me first start by going over what I had previously in case you missed my last video. So back in June, I was using an A6 Stalogy, which is a small 4x6 notebook, and I was using that as my bullet journal, my main journal, and that was kind of where everything was going. And I go through the reasons why I found that system was not the best for me at the time. But to make a long story short, pretty much I wanted more room to be able to plan and document and journal, because I was coming off of a year hiatus of splitting my journal between my personal and my work life, and now I was at a place where I actually wanted to combine them again. So a couple of you might be wondering, why didn't you just set up an A5 journal and use that for bullet journaling? And I'll get into that, but first let me just show you the things I am using and then I'll break it down. So as you can see here, this is kind of the exciting star of the video, I would say. This is a 2023 hobonichi techo. This is the cousin, which means it's their giant A5 size book. This is the full year, so it has the entire year of 2023 in it, and I purchased the Japanese edition, and I got this from Jet Pens because I purchased it almost halfway through the year. It was heavily discounted, which was great for me because this notebook is kind of an experiment in itself, so it was nice to get a bit of a discount and not have to spend the full price, because these notebooks tend to be a little more on the expensive side. And along with this cousin, I have kind of two other notebooks. I'll go through the second one that I have tucked back here when I go through this journal, but the second notebook that I'm using in conjunction with this is my field notes notebook. This is the grid notebook, so it just has this really nice light brown grid. It's pretty dark, but because it's brown, it doesn't make it too bad. And I've been using this guy for a while now, and I use these two together, and this is my, I guess, 2.5 book system that I'm hoping to carry through the end of the year. So let's just jump into how I'm using these. I think I'll start with the field notes because that probably makes the most sense, and then I'll jump into the techo and talk about why I'm using this planner. Okay, so first up is this field notes notebook. I stuck a photo on the front, but this is how it looks. It's pretty small. This is the palm of my hand. It's about 3.5 by 5.5 inches, and this notebook is so helpful. It's so funny because it's such a simple purpose, but essentially what I use this book for is I like to think of this as a substitute for taking out my phone and writing something down in my notes app. I saw this idea originally from someone on YouTube, and I will link them below and maybe put their name on the screen here, but he talked about this experiment that he did with a similar sized memo book where he would take this around with him and just use it for quick notes when he was on the go instead of taking out his phone. And it really helped him not only capture things a lot more effectively, but also do it in a way that was removed from the digital ecosystem of life. And kind of removing myself from the digital world is important to me because a lot of the work I do during the week is very digital based. I work as a designer, so I am designing websites, I'm designing apps, and I love that kind of stuff. But when I'm not working, I try to kind of separate from technology as much as I can so that I can have that disconnect, which I feel is very important. So this is literally just a book where I write down random notes, and it sounds so simple, but this has made such a great impact in my journaling practice, my planning practice, my organization system, all of that. I started this book, I have just this thing from Hobonichi paperclip to the front, but I actually started this book by writing, this notebook is for rough, messy notes that you take on your phone just to kind of start the notebook and not be stressed about writing on the first page, and also set that intention. But let's see, in here I have ideas. This was an idea for an analog system that I didn't end up going with earlier a couple months ago, restaurants to check out. I have some paper that came with my hobonichi, some notes on the Zettelkasten method, a good bottle of rosé, Durin's Day, if you read Lord of the Rings, you would know about this, some notes on thought loops, some notes on Tears of the Kingdom, some just kind of thought brain drain, longhand journaling where I just wanted to dump thoughts out of my head and process an idea. And yeah, it's very random, very sporadic, and I really just write in here with my pen. The only thing I do is I will use a pencil line just to separate the entries so that it's a little organized and I can kind of see where notes start and end. But besides that, that's pretty much all I use in this journal, and it's just been so helpful to have this kind of messy space to jot things down, write things down, and have this as kind of a almost mental inbox for my thoughts, ideas, and notes. And then from here, what's great is I can take these things and reference them and decide which are the ideas, the notes, and the things I want to reference and keep, and then I can transfer those into my commonplace book. So it's great because it kind of acts as this initial capture of the information, and then from there I can filter and take what I feel I need long term, and then once I finish the book I can just archive it, and those notes that I needed to reference short term have served their purpose here, but they're not a part of that long-term information storage system that I have. So that is really this notebook. It's kind of, I would consider like the first part of my common placing system. It's kind of the initial inbox or phone substitute, and then I do kind of carry things over and translate them into my commonplace book, which I'll talk about once I get to that. But yeah, this little book has been so great. This is kind of the only additional book I have outside of my main journal, and I just bring this with me around the house because I work from home, but also if I'm going somewhere, I just bring this with me with a pen, and I can fit it into the pocket of most of my pants and pretty much every bag, which is great. So it's a really great way for me to stay off my phone and also just capture things very organically. So yeah, field notes. This is the first guy, and I really like it. Okay, on to the next notebook, which is really the main event of the video. As I said, this is a hobonichi techo. This is the Japanese version. Because I bought this so late in the year, the Japanese version was the only one available at the time, which made my decision very easy. And I have this in a clear cover from Midori. You can kind of see it here. This is the one for their Codex notebook, which is the thicker notebook, not their regular thin notebook. I actually have this cover in the thin size as well, and I found that when I tried it on my notebook, it was way, way, way too small. the poor notebook just looked so uncomfortable, and I immediately took it off and put on the Codex cover, even though this one is a little bit loose. You can kind of see it here. It doesn't perfectly hug the notebook, but I've heard from people that as you use the hobonichi, it tends to grow in size, and that helps the cover fit a little better, but we will see. This cover isn't the best quality. It's already ripped a little bit for me here, and I don't even know how it ripped. I'm usually very careful with my things, so I might look for something a little better quality if I do buy another one of these next year, but for now, I really like the clear cover. It protects this very light cardstock, and I love how it has a pen holder here, which is very handy because I can just kind of pick up my notebook and go, which is awesome. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say about the front. Maybe I should talk a little bit about why I'm using a planner, because that may be a shock for some people. So I have been bullet journaling since 2018, and I've really liked bullet journaling. It's worked very well for me, and it's been something that has been a big part of my journaling system and also this channel here. But the thing is that since I started working, I think I've just really started to lose interest in drawing my own spreads. I think after bullet journaling for 5 years, I've gotten to a place where I don't really want to hand design and hand draw out all of my spreads. I think part of the reason why I feel that now is because the actual career that I'm in is very creative. I create a lot of things every day. I design things, and I'm constantly actually creating things, even though it's in like a digital space, not a physical one, like a bullet journal. And I think my job right now just really satisfies that creative need that I have. So I think I'm just in a place right now where I really value the time that I have outside of work and family and meeting friends, and I really want to focus that time on actually filling out my journal and journaling, and not just making the spreads and having to sit down every month and make the spreads. And it's just, I kind of want them already done for me, especially because after 5 years, I kind of know what I like and I know what I need. So when I took a look at the hobonichi cousin and I saw the types of spreads, I thought it would work really well, and I figured, why not give it a try, see if we like it, kind of treat it as an experiment, because I have bullet journaled for so long, so definitely possible that I may not like having everything done for me and I may want to go back, but I figured this would be kind of a cool thing to see if I would like. So yeah, just wanted to really focus on journaling and not have to create my spreads anymore. Even though my spreads tend to be more simple, I didn't want to do that anymore. I just wanted to actually like write in the book, paste in the pictures, and do all of that stuff instead. So that's a bit of a explanation on why, and specifically the techo why is I just really like the spreads. I also really like the design of the book. The actual cover itself is probably one of my favorite journal covers of all time, which is why I chose to just put a clear cover on it. I don't think I'd ever put a leather cover on this because I just love the design itself and I like looking at it. And also, I liked how the paper was very thin, very similar to the Stalogy, which is the notebook I've been using for pretty much most of the 5 years that I've been bullet journaling. And I also liked how the grid itself was quite light and the design is very minimal, it's very simple, and the pages seemed flexible enough that I could kind of customize and use them however I wanted to, which I thought would be just a good choice, considering I was going from a bullet journal, which is complete control and complete flexibility. So firstly, I'll talk about what I have tucked in the front and back pockets. I have this card from a Wonder Pens order that I got tucked into the front pocket purely because I like it. And it's kind of cool. It's like tea and journaling, and I tend to have tea when I'm journaling, so I don't know. I thought it was kind of fun. So I just kind of put that here. And then in the back pocket, I have my commonplace book, which I'll go over after I've gone through this journal. And I also have the little paper pamphlet that came with the hobonichi that I ordered from Jet Pens. And you could tuck this into the cover. I've chosen not to just because I thought it might stretch this a lot, and then if I ever don't want to take this with me, then the cover itself will be loose. So I just kind of put it here. And because this memo book is like a touch smaller in width than the actual cousin, it fits quite well without overlapping when you actually close the book, which is really nice. And it just kind of tucks back here. And oh, one thing I'll mention too is I got the Japanese version because, as I said, Jet Pens didn't have the English one. But I find, as an English reader, speaker, writer myself, that the Japanese version is actually like super great. I wasn't sure if all the Japanese kanji would be distracting or I would be confused about pages, but I actually really like the Japanese version. I don't know if I would purchase the English version because I find the Japanese version is so good. But yeah, kind of was really surprised at how much I liked the Japanese version. So just thought I'd mention that. I think I've rambled on enough about why I'm excited about this notebook. So let me start by going over the kind of first part of the planner and how I'm using it, which is the perpetual calendar. For the perpetual calendar, the monthly page and the weekly page, I've put these Midori index tabs just so I can easily flip to the pages. These are from Jet Pens. They are, I believe, in the color they now refer to as gold. They used to be called orange, but they're this like kind of gold bronze color, and these are pretty patinaed, so they look a little more brown. Oh, one thing I'll mention too, because I bought this notebook and started it in August, I did not fill anything out prior to August. I treated this as an August start hobonichi, so you'll notice in the planner, none of the pages prior to August have been filled out, and I don't think I will fill them out just because I think it would be a lot of effort to backlog, and I don't really want to do that right now. But as you can see, August starts here. How I'm using these pages is kind of as an index of the main topic of the daily page that I journal about. So I've started it for August and just kind of included a short blurb of the thing that I wrote about in that entry. And I think this will act as a useful page to look at the beginning of the book, so I can see certain entries that I might want to go and visit when I'm flipping through the notebook a couple months or years after I finished it. Also down here, I haven't filled it out yet, but my plan down here is to use this space to write down any books, movies, TV shows, video games I was consuming during the month itself, to kind of get like that snapshot at what I was doing. And I think that will be really cool to see kind of the different things that I was consuming throughout the months. I've always really liked to record the different movies and TV shows I've been watching. I find it interesting to look back on, so I'm going to be saving that space here for that. And because I've only had this notebook for a couple days, I haven't quite figured out what to do with this top section yet. If you have any ideas, let me know, but it might just stay blank, and that's okay. I think these two sections will work really well. I might use this top section as maybe like the top 3 highlights of the month, or I don't know, maybe like my favorite restaurants. We will see, but for now it stays blank. And then we move into the monthlies. This is the only spread I haven't filled out yet, just because I'm still setting up my cousin, but it's not really anything super special. I plan to use this as a simple calendar. I will put all of my appointments and dates here, probably also add things so I can see an overview of what happened in the month. On the left side, I plan to use this as a to-do list, and then on the bottom here, I plan to use this as a habit tracker for a couple habits I like to keep my focus on, which includes filling out my move ring, going for a walk outside, spending money on stationery, because I'm trying to really focus on that for the end of this year. And the last one is when I have dessert, because yeah, I love dessert, guys. What can I say? So after the monthlies, there are a couple months for 2024. There is this page here that says, oh, maybe it's not here. Maybe it's at the beginning of the monthlies. That says flipping into the new year. Or maybe it's between the weeklies. I clearly don't know. Yes, I think it's between the weeklies. So let's just skip to the weekly spread. So this is how the weekly spread looks. I started this planner on Thursday, so I was able to backfill these 3 days so I could start my week on the Monday. And this is just kind of a very high overview of how my day went, what I did. I also like to start each day by writing down the weather that day, because I find it really interesting to look back on that and see what the weather and temperature was like during the week. And at the bottom here, I actually write down, again, because I like to track my movies and TV shows and books, I write down the different media I was consuming at the time. And this spread is such a game changer, and I will tell you why. So for the longest time, I would split bullet journaling and memory keeping in 2 separate books. And one of the issues I always ran into with memory keeping was I would journal a lot about the day, but flipping back on those entries, I would find it hard to grasp that kind of high level overview of what happened. So it would be hard to find a specific event or see anything notable that happened in the month, because I would just kind of write about everything, which I liked to do. The issue was just trying to have that high level overview, but also deep dive into what happened that day at the same time. And this spread is just so cool because it gives me that high level overview of what happened in my day. I can quickly kind of look and see, okay, let's see. Let's talk about Saturday, yesterday. Like I slept in, I went to run some errands at the mall. I started a book and like read for 3 hours because it was so good. I had pad thai for dinner. I read more because holy guacamole, The Fourth Wing is so good, guys. If you've read it, you probably know, but I am addicted to this book. But that, we're not going to talk about that anymore. And then I watched a movie with my sister, and I'm able to get this really clean and fast overview of what I did in the day. But then when I want to see kind of maybe a more fleshed out entry on, I don't know, what happened on the 3rd when my Jet Pens package arrived with this hobonichi, and I was having like a lot of thoughts on how I liked this journal, and to be honest, I wasn't expecting to like it, and then I really did, and I wrote a lot about it. And if I want to see what I wrote, I can go and check out that daily page, and all that information is there, but it's separate from this high level overview of the day, which sometimes I prefer to look at instead of looking at all the detailed journaling. So I'm a big fan of this spread, to sum it up. I feel like I just like ranted about this spread for 10 minutes, but yes, essentially I'm using this as kind of a quick log of how my day went, the different things I had going on. How I plan to use this going forward is also if I have like appointments that week, when I sit down to plan, I'll probably just write them in pencil so I can get that overview before the day happens. But this is how an almost completed week looks. The only day missing is Sunday, which is the day I'm filming this. And I think I went over how I structure this. Temperature and weather at the top. I just write down what happens in the day. I don't follow the timeline. I completely ignore it and just kind of space things out how I want to. And then the bottom is things I'm reading, watching, playing on my Nintendo Switch. And then the left side is just a running to-do list for the week. And this spread is just perfection. I love it so much. I Also, have not decided whether or not I want to decorate the spread. So for now, I'm keeping it really simple. Without decorating, it takes up a lot of space just with what I'm writing down. So there's not a lot of room to put anything, but I might add some things in later. I haven't really decided yet. Okay, we've moved on to the daily section. So for the dailies, which are all at the back of the book, instead of using a tab, I have used my handy book dart. This is in the bronze color to mark the daily spread that I'm on. And I'll just flip to the beginning of the section so you can see some of the pages I've already filled out. So first thing I wanted to mention is the actual layout of the daily pages. I'm quite a big fan of. I really like how Hobonichi divides each month by color, so it's really easy to see which month you're on. I also really like, and I was kind of worried about this, I really like how light the grid is. I was a bit concerned because each month is a different color. The grid would really like stand out and scream at me, and one of my kind of game over like hard stops when it comes to planners and notebooks is if the grid is too dark. I can't stick with it. It just really bothers my eyes. So it was really nice to see how light the grid was and how it didn't really change that much when you go from month to month with the different colors. Like you can see the grid changing, but it's not what I would consider it to be super obvious, which is cool. And the other thing that I really liked about this spread, which is why I purchased this planner, is I really liked how the layout is divided into two columns. So on the left column here, we have a timeline, which I've personally ignored. And then on the right-hand side here, we have a slightly bigger column. It almost looks like they've divided it into 2/3 of the page and then 1/3. And how I've decided to use this, oh, that's the wrong page. How I've decided to use this is most of the days I plan to use the left column as my space for writing my daily to-do list. So if I have things I need to do that day, I write them down here. And then the right-hand column is where I journal about my day. This is kind of the intention that I plan to do, but I also really like how, again, these pages are very flexible. So if I wanted to just write about the entire day and I didn't have a to-do list or things that I want to write down that were tasks, I could just take both columns and do like a straight journal spread like I did on the 3rd here. But for days where I need to get things done, I have that space dedicated to my to-do list, which is really great. And what I like about this too, that was really important to me, is that the task list is totally separate from the journaling. So if I journal about my day a little bit and then I need to go back and add something to my task list, I'm not fighting for space on the page. They're totally separated into their own sections. So I can add to each one at my own pace without it conflicting or preventing me from adding to the other, which is a big problem that I had with my A6 journal. So that's been really nice too, to just be able to use this for productivity when I need to, but also have the journaling space ready to go as well. I have also started putting in photos into my cousin. On this day, I was listening to the Harry Styles album, so I wanted to just put that in to kind of mark that as the main topic of discussion for this page. And I do have a nicer photo printer, which is the Canon Selfie. But for this journal, I think I'm probably going to stick with printer paper, just because I think photo paper would be a little too thick for these pages, and I want to be able to get through the year without too much chunk. So my plan is to use printer paper here. But if I have some extra photos that I want to print out that I haven't pasted in here, then I can print those out with my Canon printer and put them in a photo album. So that's what I'm thinking I'm gonna do on the photo front. I've only done a couple days in here, just because I'm still kind of getting the hang of it. But this is a day where I just wanted to write about how I was liking the hobonichi, what my first thoughts and impressions were. So I literally just wrote. I wrote a full page of text, and I've been journaling for a long time now. So for me, I don't find that this amount of space is overwhelming. In fact, I found this to be very manageable. I think because if you look at the A5 page and then how much is actually for writing, it's significantly smaller, which I think is good because a whole A5 page to write would be a little aggressive, but so far I've been finding it pretty manageable. But that's definitely one of the things I want to keep my eye on, is if I find it too much work to fill this out every day. I don't think I'll probably have like a full page of journaling every day like these pages have. And I'll probably have some blank pages too, but for now I've had a lot to write about, so I've been taking up the entire page. This day is blank because I have some photos I need to paste in here before I write about my day. And then, as you can see, how these pages kind of start is my to-do list for the day, because that's what I write out in the beginning of the day. And then what I've been doing is the day after. So for the 5th, it would be today the 6th. That's when I go in and journal about the previous day and write down my thoughts and what happened and all of that stuff. So kind of splitting up the work a little bit. On the day I do my to-do list, and then after the fact I do the writing. And it's been working quite well. I really like it. And I really like how these pages fit so nicely together in terms of the design and how they look with pen and how flexible they are. It's really good. But yeah, that's how the daily pages have been working, and I've been really liking them. And that's kind of the main section of my system. Now I'm gonna go into the back pages briefly, and then the commonplace book. I haven't used all of the back pages yet, just because I, for example, don't really know what I would put in like a timetable spread. So I've just kind of used the ones that I thought would be helpful for me. The graph paper, this is a like grid that you have on the back where you can draw a graph. I am using this to track my stationery spending every month. So how much I spend on journaling supplies, stationery, journaling products every month. And I want to track this throughout the end of the year because I think it'll be kind of a useful way to see how much I spend every month, and then also the trends that occur. And then the only other spread, I've used is the My 100. And I'm using this as a list of all of the restaurants and cafes and places that I've gotten takeout. So it's kind of just a giant food log. And as a foodie myself, I really like that. I think it'll be cool to see how big this list gets. I don't think I'll get to 100, but it might be cool to get to like 40. We'll see. But what I've been doing for this is I'm writing down all of the restaurant, cafes, places I get takeout, and then what I do where this checkbox is for each day is I star the items that are restaurants or cafes that I've actually visited. And then for places I've just gotten takeout, that box remains blank, just to kind of have a bit of differentiation between those two things. So I can see which of the places I actually physically visited and dined at. So that's how I'm using this page, and I really like it so far. Okay. This is a A5 memo book by Hobonichi. They come in a set of 2. This one is the cream one, which I chose to use first because I thought that it kind of matched the front cover really well. And I'm using this as my commonplace book. I really like how Hobonichi allows you to add these separate books to your planner, because one of my biggest issues with bullet journaling was that I would write notes or collections about certain topics, and then once the notebook was done, I would archive those notes along with the notebook, which would essentially create over 5 years a very segmented note collection that would be spread over many books, which was kind of nice when I would organically flip through the notebook, but for referencing my notes consistently and looking back on notes, it wasn't necessarily the best system for that. So how I plan to use this memo book is to write down all of those important notes in collections, and then all of the notes are together in one book. I can tuck it into my planner, and as I change planners, the book can just go into the new planner at the back. It's not tied to any specific dates, and then as I finish a book, which will probably take me a while because I don't take a ton of notes, I'll be able to kind of archive this, start the new one, but again, all of the notes will be together in one place, which I really like. So I did just start this, so I only have a couple notes in here, but how I like to commonplace or just kind of record my collections in one place is I have 2 columns similar to the daily layout. I just have swapped them, so the larger column is here on the left. I write the title at the top, and I will draw a line between entries, so very similar to how I format my overflow notebook. And the only thing to note here is what I will do is for books or a TV show or movie, the first part of the column I will take to write down the name of the book, TV show, or movie so that I know what I'm referencing. And I often will pull this information from this book. So for example, here. So this is a note from the book Sapiens. I had just finished the first part of the book, which is called The Cognitive Revolution. So I had annotated in the book the quotes that I wanted to write down. I actually had written them down in here, and then what I did was I copied them into this book. And similar to the Cornell note-taking method, I kind of use this column as a space to record not only my thoughts on the quotes, but more so my kind of summary or my interpretation of the reading material, which I recorded directly here, which is kind of funny because I'm gonna see if I can find a photo of them, but this is how I did notes all the way back. I graduated like 2 or 3 years ago, but back when I was in my undergrad, I would do a very similar thing when I was studying science. I would have kind of the main notes here, and then I would use the column to write down summaries, key points, key definitions, and that worked really well for me. And it's kind of funny that this is a similar layout, but I essentially plan to use this for information I want to reference. So I have cousin grid information here for the hobonichi. I have some quotes that I wanted to remember on the nonfiction book I'm reading right now, which is Sapiens. I probably won't write down notes on fiction books just because I don't like to annotate or note take in those. Mainly I like to stick to nonfiction, but I would definitely add in here any notes on video games that I want to take and reference for kind of future replays of the game. If I was watching a lecture or taking a course, I would write information here about that as well. So yeah, pretty much a notebook for all those kind of pieces of information that I've taken in here that I want to reference more permanently and kind of have in my knowledge base, as well as for books and just important information that I want to reference. And the great thing about this is it's all in one, so I don't have to recopy out the collection when I start a new journal if I need to reference it, which is something that I did have to do when I was bullet journaling, so that's kind of nice as well. And it just tucks right in the back here, which is so convenient. And then if I start a new journal next year, I can just kind of swap this out even if I'm not done this, which again is just so cool. I love how it all just fits. It fits so well together, you know? So gotta love Hobonichi for that. But I think that is everything that I wanted to show you today about my updated journal system, my techo kaigi for the mid-year 2023, and I'm hoping this will carry me until the end of the year. I'm excited to use this book. I'm really liking it so far. Part of me is kind of waiting for something to drop and I don't like it anymore and I go back to bullet journaling, but so far it's been really pleasantly surprising me with how much this book has been working for me, so that's been kind of cool. And I hope this video does not curse me because every time I film a system update, I tend to like planner hop right after, so I'm hoping we break the curse now. But yeah, that was kind of an overview of my new journal system for the end of 2023, how I'm using my Hobonichi techo. Let me know if you use a techo, how you use the different sections, especially if you use the section here, how you use this in your perpetual calendar. I would love to know. And besides that, let me know what journals you're using for the end of the year, and I would love to know your system as well. Besides that, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys made it. I think this video is going to be very long, but I wanted to just kind of give you all my thoughts and put it all out there. So there you go. That's what we did. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're all doing well, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, everybody.